Hi, welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn here for one final time today with Michael Kiser from Good Beer Hunting. Thank you for sticking around again.
Yeah, been here all week apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing my release schedule, you've been here for about 6 months. But we're up to the final interview that we did. I think we more or less have kind of released them in the order that we were interviewing people. Yep. And this, I believe, is also the longest and the most kind of on/off topic and very different from all the other interviews we did. We sat down with Shaun Hill, owner and brewer of Hill Farmstead in Greensboro, Vermont, I believe it is. And what did you take from that interview?
Man, well, I guess one thing I always think about when I have the opportunity to talk to Shaun is that it's going to be on his terms. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to sit down with 6 marketing points and try and hit them and tell you the same anecdotes as everybody else. You're talking to Shaun. You're talking to a real person. You're talking to somebody who cares about things. And I don't know. He's a guy who thinks long and hard about a lot of the issues in our industry, some big, some tiny. And I don't know. I've always admired, I think, the detail that he's wrestled with in what he does, and I guess that's always what I've thought of. After I made my Quebec trip and we popped into Hill Farmstead for an afternoon, that was my first impression. Was this is a guy who wrestles with a lot of ideas, kind
of like the tortured intellectual of the craft beer.
Yeah, I can say that. I mean, it's his background. Mine's not so different, coming from like a poetry and creative writing background, and so I don't know. I've always found a certain amount of affinity with him, and so I know in the beginning, I think it starts out a little slow because we're just trying to find our way to something that we both want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think we eventually get there, and then it becomes really, I don't know, I get as much out of my conversations with Shaun as I feel like he does. And I think and I think that's as unique an interview as you can ask for with somebody. So we spent a lot of time in this interview talking about the linguistics of beer and what words have meaning anymore. Yeah. And it turns out for him, not very many words have meaning.
Yeah. This interview was very different from the others. We're not really going to talk about any of his beers, I don't think. Nope. We don't try any of his beers. We just sit and kind of have a little chat with Shaun Hill and see where it goes. And to me, it went some interesting places. Certainly, I think the most in-depth and in a way the most meaningful of the conversations we had.
Because I think most of the people we end up talking to, for better and worse, and not intentionally, they often know that we want something out of the conversation, and they're trying to figure out how to give us what we want, as interviewers or as media in their minds. Yeah. I think Shaun is very different. He's looking for what he's going to get out of it, and I think that's important as a conversation partner. So I guess I see him more as a conversation partner than a media interview.
Yeah.
Anytime I talk to him.
Interesting.
And I was really thankful he was able to make the time.
Yeah, because you had interviewed him before. I would barely call that an interview.
Right. When I met him at Hill Farmstead and did my profile on him, I think I was able to talk to him for about 30 seconds at a time over an afternoon, and it was very little interaction. He was busy making beer, and that's where his head was, and he's the kind of guy that seems like he's focused on something he's focused on. He doesn't like being torn away.
Yeah, very, very similar then to my meeting with him as well, up there in just that beautiful bucolic space in Vermont.
Yeah. Which to him is just where he grew up. I don't think which is the irony of it all. I don't think he sees it that way.
Right. As this kind of pilgrimage, this beer mecca that so many people are like, oh, I'm going to make this voyage out there.
Yeah, and we end up talking about the build out, which I think is important. And we get to the detail of whether or not he likes the windows.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I can't wait for him to put that push button.
The polarizing.
You'll see. And anyway. Without further ado, guys, thanks. This is our final interview. This with Shaun E. Hill, I believe, from Hill Farmstead Brewery in Greensboro, Vermont. Thank you guys so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hi, Shaun Hill, Hill Farmstead Brewery, Greensboro, Vermont. Sitting here with these 2 guys.
You don't need to produce it. It's fine.
You don't want me to produce?
I'm really excited to be seeing you again today. I think it's been, a little over 2 years since the last time I was in there.
Sounds about right.
And you had just started kind of breaking ground on the new expansion. You had a bunch of equipment out back, you were moving some stuff around, and you were just starting to lay out, I think, some of the foundation.
Oh.
Like you were just starting to mark off territory. It was like that fresh. It hadn't even begun.
Yeah, so it probably was about exactly, or maybe it was a year and a half. No, that would have been 2 years. Just fall of.
A couple Octobers ago.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised to see you here looking get a little more rugged after all that. It's like watching the president go through his first term and he gets a little bunch of gray hair.
Oh, this is all because my girlfriend makes me grow facial hair because it.
Is that right?
Very scruffy, my French Canadian background, so it's like sandpaper.
Fur trapper.
But most of this is just that I've been lazy and haven't shaved.
Yeah, that's most of us.
Bohemian.
How's the expansion going?
I don't know how I feel about the word expansion.
Yeah, okay. Well, how would you
no
phrase
one
it?
ever uses the word contraction, so
Fair
it
enough.
seems like it's lacking.
An opposite?
Yeah. Build out maybe.
Okay.
It's okay. Brew house comes in 9 days supposedly. Yeah. I don't know.
One of the things that was notable for me when I saw you last time in the existing space was it seemed like you were brewing right in front of everybody. Like it felt like you were on a big stage.
Yeah, I still am.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to getting away from that kind of setup a little bit?
Yeah, stupidly though. I put windows in the new future retail shop, but I wanna look into some like glass frosting. Mechanism, so I can like push a button and then people can't look at me anymore.
Well, yeah.
Some like remote control curtains.
I'm imagining the scene in, what is it, like Spinal Tap, where the driver's like talking in the background and they're like looking like they're paying attention, and then they just put the screens up.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean it's not really that bothers me so much. I think a lot of people think that I'm cold or something when I'm working, but because I'm not making eye contact and saying hi to everyone that's in the retail shop.
Right.
But I'm just really focused on what I'm doing, and on that note, what sort of I think is the most frustrating and annoying about having the brewery just open the way it is right now is that people, i.e. contractors, salespeople, friends, staff, etc., just walk through my brewery, my brew house all day.
Just uninterrupted.
When I'm in the middle of pH adjustments and focusing on troubleshooting or something, and it's just like, hey, what do you want me to do about this? And I just have to drop what I'm doing at that moment. Maybe I suck all my hops into the heat exchanger, or just everything is very disjointed, and part of like in a way I'm like building myself a 6,000 square foot office that hopefully no one else has access to.
Right.
I need a lot of space by myself.
Yeah, I mean when you're doing something, when you're intense about what you do, it's not just that you can't be interrupted, it's that you have so much momentum mentally going in one direction, and then have to stop and address something else on a dime, and then to try and get back in that groove is almost impossible.
Get the momentum started again.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
I've got
It's actually why I don't answer any cell phone calls.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I'm not ready to take this out. One of the things I love most, I love Joey Redner immensely anyway, but when you call a cell phone, it's like, you've reached Joey Redner from Scar City Brewing. Please do not leave a message here. I do not listen to them. Obviously, you have my phone number. Please send me an email or a text message, and I'll try to get back to you. Thank you. So I've actually been meaning to set that up for like a year. Maybe after this interview's done, I'll go do that. People are always like, didn't you get my voicemail? I'm like, no, I don't listen to voicemail.
Yeah. Calls are so invasive that way. They're so like demanding.
On my phone right now that I haven't listened to. But anyway.
Yeah. I feel like the only way you can exist in modern day society with communication is like asynchronous, and you just have to expect them to get back to you when it suits them. This doesn't work any other way. Do too many things.
So with everything being so hands-on and just really you being the brewery, why did you feel it was important for you to travel 3,000 miles to pour your beer at a festival where your beer doesn't make it outside of really your brewery, not in package form? What was important about being here for you?
That I told Christian that I would.
Okay.
When they were planning the festival, they asked me if they held it here if I would attend, and I said yes. And I don't. I've been able to do a little more traveling over the last year. I went to France, and then I went back to Denmark and went to Germany to inspect our brew house. I really don't leave enough. I don't get out, you know, and people seem to appreciate our beer. You know, they'll never have access to it on a world scale. So sort of finally having the opportunity to maybe start using our beer and people's appreciation for it as a means to go to a place that I haven't been before is important. It's also
I mean, drawing them to Vermont. If you like that it has gravity.
They come to Vermont, but I mean also like shipping a refrigerated pallet to Beechwood to tap all of our beer. But I mean, perhaps most of all is the opportunity to see people that I only get to see once a year because I don't get to travel the world and see people, you know, like Jakob and Morten from Ama and Shaun and Armand and Yvonne and Pierre-Alex and Kevin. I see the Quebec brewers often. I'm not implying that I don't need to see them, but, and I see Chad a couple times a year. But it's really, I mean, it's not the most conducive environment for like catching up with old friends, but it's nice to see these people that in some cases I've known for almost 10 years that I used to, you know, that during my early formative years as a brewer in 04, 05, 06, you know, making the sort of my own pilgrimage to Logie and to Cantillon and having that opportunity to see those people.
It seems like, I mean, brewing in general seems like it has a pretty collegial attitude that way, or at least people perceive it that way most of the time, but it seems like this group more specifically has a much deeper connection because it's more than just, yay, we're all brewers and we work in the same industry and that's cool. Like the people here seem to have a real deep respect for each other's beer and the kind of approach that they take. It seems like it's a very strong, like, united subset of the brewing community.
And it seems
How did
like
it get that way?
There's some commonality of goal as well, it seems.
I agree. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
How does that form? Because it's not like you all went to school together. It's not like you're all college buddies or anything. Like, how does something like that happen? I mean, we're all adults here at this point. We're actually not that good at making friends at this stage of life.
Man, I don't know. I don't usually think about it that much. Actually, I think from an outsider perspective, it seems that way. But I don't know. Like it's like your relationship to other retail store owners and your relationship to other beer writers. Organic.
It seems like a real
happens.
specific
it's
ethos.
in any teachers conference or something. I don't know.
Whatever other people do.
Yeah.
So we've been interviewing a bunch of other people as well, and a lot of the farmhouse guys like Ron from Jester King and Chase and the guys from Dunham, a lot of them were talking about having a sense of place to their beer. And I think Hill Farm, as much as any, certainly has that persona of it is a place that you go. You mentioned pilgrimage before. Do you think there's anything specifically about your location that lends certain qualities to the beers you make?
Yes. I mean, you know, we're not growing all of our ingredients. You know, I think the primary component in beer is water. But for the most part, all those people that you just mentioned are using hops from the exact same suppliers, malt from the exact same suppliers, yeast from the exact same suppliers. You know, what exactly is it that makes those beers different? And you know, I think water and process are really the only things that are maybe unique to each individual in their place. But you just referenced brewers with a sense of place for their beers.
Well, they weren't
what is that?
like a terroir, but not in the true like wine sense where it's, you know, these grapes grew up in this gravel, but just if it's local microflora or well water or something to be, we want, you know, this to be a Texas table beer, you know, from Jester King. Do you think that's even possible? Can there be terroir in beer?
I sort of go back and forth on it. I think Cantillon has some of the most recognizable terroir character, but I've brewed beers, sort of my recipes, some process variables at other people's breweries, and I think it when I taste them and when other people taste them, tastes like a Shaun beer. What exactly is that?
Yeah, what do you think it might be?
I don't know. I'm just don't know.
I believe it, but I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's a really difficult thing to think about and discuss because it's like even when we age beer in wine barrels, those wine barrels are made from French oak that was seasoned for 30 months, open to the air in Burgundy. How is that my terroir? And likewise with using Brettanomyces strains that are banked in place X. I don't know. I mean, it's really. I think beer needs to come up with a different term because I think that word ultimately should only belong to wine.
Right.
And also, I try not to use the word saison. I try not to even use the word farmhouse because I think that Americans want to emulate their Belgian idols, and we're not a farmhouse brewery. We're just a brewery that's located in Vermont,
right.
And I feel like to call your beer saison and a farmhouse brewery and stand in the stream and pour beer next to Parallax and Kevin while you're using a cultured version of something ground up from their bottle, or in particular the most prolific quote-unquote saison strain in America, the 3711, which Daniel Turier spent a good long while. I talked to him about how he selected that yeast, trying to get that yeast that he wanted, and everyone else used it. And what is uniquely our own?
Right.
Like, is anything even uniquely our own?
It seems like everybody's just trying to describe that it's in the style of something, but that always becomes problematic for that exact reason.
I mean, we have the trademark Hill Farmstead Brewery. In essence, no one else can really use the word Farmstead. So that's why we try to refer to things as like Farmstead ales.
Right.
I'm trying to think of an example. It'd be like, is this quote unquote saison that you brew? Is that a saison, or is this just a good beer hunting ale? Why? I was at Dodola back in 2012 on that trip where we brewed Vermontoise and Five Sciences, and Southern American brewer was there with us. Maybe he'll listen to this. I don't know who he is. Who makes a beer just called saison, and Chris from Dodola, it was like, why do you call your beer saison? And the brewer's response was, I like the style. I've been homebrewing for a long time. It's kind of like taking off guard.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's like Americans are bastardizing the word saison. Like, it's a fucking garbage category.
It's kind of a catch-all.
That is a catch-all, and Tim at Santa Darius has his whole series, right? It's based on a BJCP category. I forgot what it is, like 16, or whatever. But I like that. Can't people be more creative and come up with their own word?
I mean, that seems like the real criticism there is it's not like you can't use the word saison. It's just use a word with intent behind it.
Belgian IPA. This is our Belgian IPA. What makes that Belgian? You use Belgian malts, Belgian hops, Belgian yeast? No, you use American malts, American hops. It's time really for here's my call to arms.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's time for people to be a little more I think selective in their wording. Maybe trying to do something uniquely their own, and instead of just trying to like group all this garbage into this category that it sits on.